Hey, it's Rob Hefner again for the town of Pinetop-Lakeside, and another topic with the Community Development Director, Jeremiah Loyd. How are you doing today?
I'm good.
So we're going to talk about the general plan overall, and then how the land use map fits into that. But we're going to talk general plan first. So talk to me, what is a general plan?
General plan is a document. It's a long-range planning tool utilized by communities throughout the state and throughout the United States. It is a statutory requirement that we have a general plan. We have had one since 1986. Of course, the town was incorporated in 1984, so it took us a couple of years to get it on the bandwagon, and then we didn't do an update until 2001.
Okay.
And then they came out with the Growing Smarter initiative in the late 90s, 98 and 99, that time frame. And that required municipalities to plan 10 years at a time and renew that every 10 years.
Okay. What does the general plan address? Is it just land use? What is it exactly?
So we're required by statute to address the land use element and the circulation element. So that's the only two requirements for a municipality of our size. We're around 4,000, and I think the dividing line's around 25,000 population for the other requirements that kick in. But we actually we went forward with some of the other elements. We have like 6 other elements besides just the land use and circulation element that we included in our 2011 general plan.
What's circulation exactly?
So circulation is like how you get around the community. Do you hike, bike, walk? Where are the trails? Where are the arterial roads, major, minor, stuff like that? It's basically how you traverse the community. How do you get around in the town? Okay,
and it's just basically defines where those areas are going to be, and it doesn't really get into super detail, right?
Yeah, it's really broad. Like we can plan and say, hey, we think that we need another major arterial. But where would that be? So we can say we would like to see it over here. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be there.
Right.
It's just kind of where we think that it might happen and be most expeditious to traffic circulation through the town.
Okay. Now, as a part of this, there's the land use map, correct?
Right.
And what does that do exactly?
So there is some confusion on what the land use map does. And there is a distinction between the land use and zoning. So land use is just that. It's what we think would be the best suited use for that land. It requires by statute that we attach a density to that. So different densities for different areas, like is it open space? Is it low density? Is it medium density? Is it high density? What type of use? Is it commercial? Is it residential? It doesn't actually get down to the nuts and bolts that zoning does. And it's not zoning, but it guides zoning.
Okay, so it doesn't, and if it's a certain thing and then later zoning comes in and goes, it needs to be different, that can change?
Right, so if somebody came in and said, hey, I have proposed use of, for instance, residential, and it was, or let's go the other route, let's say it's commercial, and it was shown on the general plan land use element as medium density residential, well, we're required to, by statute, look at our general plan for our guiding document to dictate what we can change that zoning to. So the general plan doesn't have to it's not necessarily married to the zoning, but it definitely guides the zoning. Like it's where we want to go with the zoning, but it's not zoning, if that makes sense.
Yes. Open space. You said open space, and then there's densities. Is open, or is there things that you say there's nothing going to be built here or stuff like that? What is open?
Right. So we have it pretty clearly spelled out what open space is, but everybody pretty much has a general idea of what they think open space is. It's undeveloped land that could be used for a park, or maybe it's riparian habitat for a floodplain is another good example. The thing is when we go and attach that land use element, that density or that land use rather, to a property, we actually have to have the underlying property owner's signature to say, yes, I'm not going to build here, because it is, in a sense, a taking of their property rights to develop it.
Okay. So if somebody gave up a section of their property as a park and said that's going to be open, then they would agree to it, have a signature, and that's
right. And the only other way around that is if we were to grant them one dwelling unit per acre minimum, which is already basically our low density, so it's not even. open space technically.
Do we have any of these that exist that way right now?
We do not.
Okay. So that's good to know.
It's pretty clear that those would fall into what we would consider low density, one dwelling unit per acre.
Okay, so we've had and that would, like you said, require the property owner to say, yeah, because they're giving up their rights a little bit.
Precisely.
Okay, awesome. Anything else that we need to cover on the general plan or the general use map?
So some of the other key items that we included besides the land use and circulation, because those were the only statutory requirements, we have economic development goals, we have environmental planning goals, open space, which we touched on. Let's see, what else do we have? Land use goal, those are the two that required land use and circulation. But then we have one that's called definition of cost of development, and that's just how much does it cost to develop. And at one point we had impact fees, but we did away with those.
Okay.
And then we have growth area goals, like what areas do we want to see growth? And then water resource goals, like where are our resources for water? How much water's in the ground? How much water's on the surface? And a lot of times developments will come in and they'll have what's called an assured water supply that they'll have to submit to the state and us when they go through subdivision process.
Okay. And we're going to go through another episode and we're going to talk actually about what's required of a builder or a developer to be able to build. They can't just, because it's zoned a certain way, just walk in and start building tomorrow.
Right.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Once again, it's Jeremiah Loyd, the Community Development Director. This is Talk of the Town.